On April 2, 2025, during a Senate Judiciary Committee hearing titled Rule by District Judge, The Challenges of Universal Injunctions, Senator Ted Cruz, Republican Texas, engaged in a heated exchange with Representative Adam Schiff, Democrat California. The discussion centered on the role of federal judges issuing nationwide injunctions, with Senator Cruz criticizing what he perceives as judicial overreach and accusing Democrats of hypocrisy in their stance on this issue. Senator Cruz argued that certain judges have exceeded their authority by issuing broad injunctions that affect national policies, a practice he believes undermines the balance of powers. He highlighted instances where he felt such judicial actions were politically motivated and inconsistent with constitutional principles. Representative Schiff defended the judiciary's role, asserting that nationwide injunctions are sometimes necessary to address policies that may cause widespread harm. He emphasized the importance of an independent judiciary capable of checking executive actions when they potentially violate constitutional rights. This confrontation underscores the ongoing debate over the judiciary's role in shaping national policy and the political tensions surrounding judicial decisions that have far-reaching implications. For a detailed view of the exchange, you can watch the full hearing right after this.
Hey, they found a judge who says, you know what? We, the Democrat Party, we are the party of illegal aliens. We are the party of murderers and rapists and gang members. And the Democrat Party exists here to fight to keep murderers and rapists and gang members in your communities. There's a reason the Democrat Party is at 26% approval nationwide.
The use of nationwide injunctions against an administration that has proven so breathtaking in its lawlessness and who is engaged in such a surge of illegal actions, the effort to do away with this singularly vital tool, I think you called it, at this time would be disastrous for the country.
I have to admit, I'm enjoying listening to my Democrat colleagues suddenly discover the virtues of the rule of law. After 4 years where they brazenly supported the most lawless Department of Justice and the most politically weaponized Department of Justice our nation has ever seen. We just heard the senator from Rhode Island talk about the imperative of protecting judges. And yet not a single Democrat senator cared about the violent protesters that showed up outside Supreme Court justices' homes, including, I might note, female justices like Justice Amy Coney Barrett, threatening their family, and Joe Biden's attorney general didn't do a damn thing and refused to enforce the law to protect those judges. Why? Because he agreed with the violent protesters and he wanted to intimidate and threaten those judges. Professor Bray, under our Constitution, who should decide elections, the voters or unelected judges?
The voters are the ones who should vote in the election according to the laws, and the laws sometimes have to be applied by the judges if there are cases.
And under our Constitution, who is charged with making policy decisions? Elected representatives elected by the people or unelected federal judges?
I think the question of policy, Senator, is a little broader than the particular case. So the laws should be enacted by Congress. That's where the fountain of law.
Policy decisions are the elected branches.
Right.
Law is the province of the court. Policy is the province of the elected branches. These are not complicated. Professor Bray, let me ask you this. Do the federal courts have power to issue remedies for people who are not parties to a case?
That's a question I agree is not complicated. They do not have that power.
Is the phrase nationwide injunction or universal injunction found anywhere in the Constitution?
It is not.
First chart. In the first 150 years of our republic, how many nationwide injunctions were issued?
My view is that there were not any until 1963.
0. Now fast forward. How many nationwide injunctions were issued in the entire 20th century?
It's a small number. I would think it would be a dozen, give or take. It's not large.
27, actually. Excluding Trump's first term, how many nationwide injunctions were issued in the last 20 years?
Far more than that.
32. From 2001 to 2024 against Biden, Obama, and Bush, 32. And how many nationwide injunctions have been issued in the last 2 months alone?
There have been quite a few.
37. Let that sink in. There have been more nationwide injunctions in the past 2 months against President Trump than in the entire 20th century. There have been more nationwide injunctions against President Trump in the last 2 months than both terms of George W. Bush, both terms of Barack Obama, and Joe Biden's term. We saw during the Biden presidency lawfare, indicting President Trump 4 times, using the machinery of justice to attack him, and that was an attack on democracy, because Democrats today hate democracy. Democrats today are angry at the voters for re-electing Donald Trump and electing a Republican Senate and a Republican House, and they engaged in lawfare to stop democracy from operating. Understand, this is the second phase of lawfare. Second chart. This is the second phase of lawfare. Now that their efforts to indict President Trump and stop the voters from re-electing him have failed, they're going and seeking out individual radical judges to try to shut down policies, and they are forum shopping like crazy. Give me any loon judge put on the bench by Obama or Biden who disagrees with a policy. We just saw a judge flagrantly ignore U.S. immigration law concerning TPS being revoked. U.S. law explicitly said there's no judicial review for that, but hey, they found a judge who says, you know what? We, the Democrat Party, we are the party of illegal aliens. We are the party of murderers and rapists and gang members, and the Democrat Party exists here to fight to keep murderers and rapists and gang members in your communities. There's a reason the Democrat Party is at 26% approval nationwide, because they put radical policies ahead of rule of law. Nationwide injunctions are an abuse of power. It is the judiciary acting as policy deciders, and it is incumbent on this committee and this body to rein in the abuse of power from these unelected radical judges who are trying to overturn the election because they disagree with what the voters decided.
Thank you, Senator Cruz. Senator Cruz.
When the Justice Department dismissed a corruption case against the mayor of New York City, not because of a lack of evidence, not because of any misconduct by the prosecutors in the case, but because of the most serious misconduct of the Attorney General and the top leadership of the Justice Department. Because the Justice Department wanted to leverage that case against the mayor by dismissing the case without prejudice so that they could use him as a political pawn to help effectuate their immigration policy. That just happened today. It is one of any number of serious abuses of the rule of law by this Justice Department. And instead of having a single hearing on what the department is doing, or a single hearing on all the other plainly unlawful acts of this administration, no, instead of having a hearing on any of those things, Republicans are having a hearing on the one tool that can be used to try to mitigate the harm of these illegal actions. Now, I completely concur that whether nationwide injunctions are a good thing or a bad thing has depended entirely on who they're being used against. I count no less than 26 of my Republican colleagues who were vigorously supportive of a nationwide injunction against the use of mifepristone. No problem supporting a nationwide injunction in that case. And of course, on the Democratic side of the aisle, we are applauding injunctions against the unlawful actions of this administration. Where I think I come down at this moment in time gets to your point, Professor Vladeck, and that is the use of nationwide injunctions against an administration that has proven so breathtaking in its lawlessness and who is engaged in such a surge of illegal actions. The effort to do away with this singularly vital tool, I think you called it, at this time would be disastrous for the country. It doesn't mean there is not going to come a time when we should agree on a bipartisan basis to place limits on this capability. I think we should, in particular on the abuse of forum shopping, on picking judges solely on the basis of their political predilection or who appointed them for the purpose of a nationwide injunction. But this is not the moment to do it. This is the moment, frankly, we should be focusing on the illegality, not on the tool to constrain it. That doesn't mean we're powerless to work on legislation on this, and I think many of us have concurred with the idea of legislation that takes effect after this term, when we don't know who the next president is. Senator Cruz, you and I went to the same law school. There was a wonderful professor at the college named John Rawls who wrote a book you probably read about the veil of ignorance, where you cast a veil of ignorance over society, and society would develop rules to govern that society, not knowing their attributes, their race, their religion, their gender, none of that. Well, far be it for me to advocate a further veil of ignorance over this body. We are ignorant enough. But perhaps the ignorance of not knowing who the next president is useful here. We should come up with a sensible reform of injunctions and forum shopping, but there's no way this is going to have bipartisan support unless we defer its application until after this administration, when we don't know which way it will cut. I think the same is probably true about filling judicial vacancies. We have just come to this broken place where probably the only way to get things done of this significance is to postpone their application until we don't know who the president will be.